Boys and girls, in the modern era, it's so nice, it's so refreshing to hear from a Hollywood actor, especially somebody that's been around the block for a very, very long time and more than one time out there, to actually come out there and reject a lot of this modern ideology, try to go out there and not line up with a lot of the crazy ass talking points that we've got there in our current zeitgeist, in our current culture sphere that we have out there inside of the entertainment and honestly inside of every single aspect of our culture, all the way down, running all the way down from the top to the politics, all the way down from your local corner store. It's one of them situations where a lot of people have just fallen right in line with this. They thought it was the new wave thing. They thought it was the next big hot thing. And we have seen this especially inside of Hollywood with a lot of the actors and actresses over the years getting completely and totally possessed by the spirit of the age, getting completely and totally infected by this woke mind virus that has taken over so many aspects of our entertainment out there in the modern era. Well, boys and girls, it hasn't gotten everybody out there, and there are still quite a few good ones left out there. And with the absolutely massive success that has been Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, they've had a very successful box office weekend, raking in more than what everybody expected, and hopefully with some nice legs that will continue on making them end up having even more money than what the original one did. And they've already crossed a franchise goal, which they've crossed $1 billion as a franchise so far with just the two movies. So shout out to them for pulling that off. So one of the other wonderful aspects of that, of course, was getting to see all of the original Ghostbusters cast return, at least those of them that are still with us. Rest in peace, Egon. But nonetheless, Ernie Hudson, a guy out there that has been nothing more than an absolute class act in every interview I've ever seen him, has given me another reason to adore him. And here's another reason for you to as well. Because Ghostbusters star Ernie Hudson rejects idea that being black led to his reduced role in first film. Says it's very tempting sometimes to blame anything that doesn't work in your life on racism, but it's not quite that simple. Now, this is a rumor and some stuff that's been going on for a long time. This is something that anybody tried to decry the original Ghostbusters movies, especially during the absolute disastrous dumpster fire of a failed reboot that they tried doing in the 2016 series, which I will not even quantify as saying that it's a Ghostbusters movie because it's not. Unfortunately enough, the new ones have rejected it. But this is a tried and true nonsense of stuff that they tried throwing out at the original movies. Well, the reason why Ernie Hudson didn't get more time on screen was because they're racist. Well, that's okay, because guess what? There's even an explanation for that, and Ernie gives it to us. In offering the latest counter to Hollywood's incessant need to blame literally every problem on some sort of form of bigotry, Ghostbusters franchise star Ernie Hudson says that not only does he disagree with the idea that being black led to his reduced role in the first film, but that leaping to blame anything on that doesn't work in your life on racism is nothing but unproductive. For context, a quick trip down memory lane. Originally, as confirmed by Ghostbusters co-creator Dan Aykroyd, the role of Winston Zeddemore was originally intended to go to comedian Eddie Murphy. However, thanks to schedule conflicts related to his work on Beverly Hills Cop, Murphy ultimately had declined the offer. As such, the role would eventually go to Hudson. Can you imagine a world where Eddie Murphy played that role? Wow. Wow, the crazy things. And honestly, it wouldn't be our Ernie. I don't think it would be our Ernie. I think it'd just be, oh yeah, you remember that ghost hunting movie that Eddie Murphy played in? I just don't think it'd be the same. But despite the fact that the character was seemingly intended for a celebrity as big as Murphy, as fans who have seen the final cut of the film can attest, he's barely even a presence in the first Ghostbusters, having easily the least amount of screen time by far among the core team and even being noticeably absent from the film's domestic and international release posters. See, as you can see, just the first three. And according to Hudson, the dissonance is due to the fact that at the very last second, the film's production studio, Columbia Pictures, decided to reduce his role in order to give co-star Bill Murray more screen time. When I originally got the script, the character of Winston was amazing, and I thought it would be career-changing. He recalled to Entertainment Weekly in 2014. The character came in right at the very beginning of the movie and had an elaborate background. He was an Air Force major, a demolitions guy. It was great. In light of finding both the character and the potential chance for recognition to be appealing, Hudson said that when the Ghostbusters team came in at only half my quote, because they said this role was going to make my career, rather than rejecting the offer, and he said to my agent, I don't care, just take it, because I believe that. Unfortunately, despite agreeing to this reduced rate under the assumption that he would have played the original version of Zeddemore, the actor noted, the night before filming begins, however, I get this new script, and it was shocking. The character was gone. Instead of coming in at the very beginning of the movie, like page 8, the character came in on page 68 after the Ghostbusters were established. His elaborate background was all gone, replaced by me walking in saying, if there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say, which was an absolutely iconic line. And he says, so that was pretty devastating. And he said that himself, but this is an iconic line. I mean, honestly, it's such a great one liner. It's one of my favorite lines. It's one of those ones that I remember all the time. When I think of his character, that's exactly what I think of. There's a steady paycheck in it. I'll believe anything you say. Like, I love it because she just gives him this long list of paranormal, ESPE, da 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 da, and the Loch Ness Monster. If there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say. I love that. I think it honestly turned out even better for it. I think that's wonderful. So he says, I'm panicked. I didn't sleep that night. It was like my worst nightmare is happening. The next morning, I rushed to set and plead my case. And director Ivan basically says, the studio felt that they had Bill Murray, so they wanted to give him more stuff to do. I go, okay, I understand that, but can I even be there when they're established? And of course he said, no, there's nothing to do about it. It was kind of awkward, and it became sort of the elephant in the room. I see this differently now, and I don't mean any kind of animosity or anything towards anyone, certainly not towards Ivan or the guys. I was a single dad, and we were struggling to kind of hold on and pay the rent. I still needed to do this job. 30 years later, I look back at the movie, and it works very well the way it is. I think the character works with what he has to work with, but I've always felt like, man, if I could have played the original character. And it was in this reference to the debate that when pressed by the actors Lewis Chilton following the premiere of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire as to whether or not he thought racism played a crucial part in the shrinking of both his role in the film and his paycheck, Hudson sought to make it clear that he found the entire line of argument to be entirely reductive. And see, and that's the problem in the modern era, right? This is one of those people out there that even with the success of this movie, even with them completely and totally ignoring 2016, even them trying to make this an homage to the original movies and carry on with that storyline and carry on with those traditions, no, the Hollywood acolytes for the cult, these people that work in mainstream legacy media entertainment for Hollywood, no. They've still got to go, well, wasn't it racist? Don't you want to admit that the old movies were racist? Don't you admit that old Hollywood was so racist and aren't things so much better now? No. Ernie rejects this. He says, being a person of African descent anywhere in the world, we're all just learning how to live together and get along together and realize that we're all connected. My, do I miss the 90s and the way we viewed race back then. And it's very tempting sometimes to blame anything that doesn't work in your life on racism. But there are a lot of emphasis added by me, obviously. But there are a lot of things that play into it. It's not quite that simple. We can say it's a racial thing, but I think if Eddie Murphy had played the role I played, he would have been paid very well. I think the studios are in the business of making money, and they pay what they feel they have to. Yeah, I mean, Eddie Murphy was a huge hit at the time. That's what they were looking for, was another comedy actor to add to it. The guy was huge. He was making kill it. He was a headliner all over the place. Who was Winston? Who was this guy? You know what I mean? Who was he? You know what I mean? I mean, it's one of them situations where, like, how do you go through it? Who was Ernie Hudson at the time? You know what I mean? We all know and love him now, but that's who he is now. You know what I mean? And Ghostbusters was really the thing that made him a household name. So this was like his big break. He did great after this. So yeah. Eddie Murphy would have got that role. He would have gotten exactly what it was when he got a big fat paycheck. So literally, two black guys up for the exact same role. One, a very much less known actor, a very much less known leading man who completely understands, yeah, had nothing to do with racism. And going down the path and blaming everything bad happens in your life on racism is just reductive and unproductive. Yeah. So all you boys and girls out there in your woke little crying, screaming mob, put on your big girl panties and grow up and be an adult, because that's something that Ernie Hudson realizes that. That's exactly what he knows. He knows life is what you make of it, and the color of your skin doesn't matter as much as the content of your character, especially to sane and rational people. But clearly, the reporter that asks this question is not a sane or rational person in any way, shape, or form. But guess what, boys and girls? Rationality and sanity is back on the menu, and Ernie Hudson is just another beautiful representation of that.